Welcome to Waking Up America, the Not Morning Show. Today's news, more top secret documents found at Biden's home, Katie Hobbs is off to a rough start in Arizona, and the ATF loses a major battle in the courts. Let's talk about this while we still can. I am your host, Alexander Graves, the constitutional conservative perspective of this podcast, and I am joined tonight by my co-host, welcome back, my half-ass libertarian, Devin Adler.
Yep. Had some family matters I had to kind of attend to, but we're back. We back.
So you didn't switch genders?
No, I did not.
Okay. Yet?
No.
Okay. All right. If you guys enjoy this content, please follow us on Twitter at America Wake Up. You guys will get timely news updates there. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to see more of it and want to encourage us to keep doing this, because it does take time and effort, please head on over to buymeacoffee.com/wakeup, where you guys can buy us a cup of coffee, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do. We greatly appreciate it. Alrighty. Also, we do have a subscriber goal for this month. We are hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers, so be sure to share it with your friends. Thank you so much. Okay, into the first story here. I'm sure you guys have heard it. It is Friday Fun Day, though, so we're just going to ram through and recap some little stories from the week. In a locked garage, says Biden in response to more classified docs being found at his private home. Let's dig into this. The second batch of classified documents that President Joe Biden retained from his tenure as vice president was discovered at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. But on Thursday, Richard Sauber, a special counsel to the president, confirmed that more classified documents had been found at Biden's private Delaware home. Now, important to note here, before we get into this a little bit more, the vice president does not have the power to declassify documents. So this is illegal right off the bat. That is the president, unless it was declassified by Obama beforehand or pardoned. He's already broken laws here. And I think I have kind of a unique perspective here on exactly what is going on here, but we'll get into it. I want to push a little bit more into the article here. According to Sauber, after personal attorneys for Biden discovered classified documents in his private residence in Washington on November 2nd, Biden's attorneys began searching Biden's two Delaware residences for more documents. At some point during the search, they discovered more documents inside Biden's garage. Okay. Your thoughts on this matter before I go into my, I think, fairly unique perspective on this.
I mean, it's just blatant irresponsibility. It's just having them laying around in the garage. I mean, at the very least, like a filing cabinet. Come on, have some class. But yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it's a lack of respect for the position, but you're a really high-ranking official in the United States government. You should probably take care of documents a little bit better than that.
So, yes, I agree with you. I think I have a different perspective on this. I feel like this is one of those bait and switch. We're watching this hand over here while something's going on over here, because there's something very important in this article that I think is not really being pointed out with both the first documents and the second documents. These were found by Biden's attorneys. This is Biden, the one who covered up Burisma. He's not known for telling the truth. Were his attorneys finding documents and his aides finding documents and then ratting out Biden? So one, either, I don't know, disgruntled, or more than likely, and this is where I think it is, because in the previous episode we covered this, Biden announced that he's more than likely seeking re-election, and the Democrats hate that. They do not want to lose the White House. I think this is being weaponized against Biden by his own administration, because we all know he's not the puppet master. He's being controlled by people in his administration. I think this is an effort to get him stripped of power, like to make him look bad to the point that he's forced to step down for somebody like Gavin Newsom. What do you think about that?
I mean, the DNC is kind of known for shenanigans like this. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
Yeah, the fact that it's his lawyers doing this and his aides, and just the timing is just really, really weird, because all these rumors are coming about him running. And he's been asked several times by both Democrats and both right and left, just like, are you running? And he's like, I'm running. Stop asking. Like, I'm going to do it. And we're just over here, like, on the right wing, like, please, you'll get destroyed. Please run. And I think they know that. So I think they're weaponizing this against him. A little bit more into the article here. During the review, the lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. This gets worse, by the way. All but one of these documents were found in a storage space in President Biden's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. Okay, so these documents were just left in a garage. They were just locked in a garage next to his Corvette. Okay, that's absolutely ridiculous there. There's more concerning stuff in this article, though. Biden's attorneys immediately notified the Justice Department when they discovered the documents, Sauber explained. So like I said, his own team is working against him here to report him on this and get him in trouble. Like, he could have just not said anything. Biden was asked about the second discovery Thursday morning, and he responded by downplaying the seriousness of retaining classified documents in an unsecured location. Mind you, it's hypocritical because they went after Trump for exactly the same thing, and they rated his place at Mar-a-Lago when he declassified those documents as president. So that was legal. Biden has absolutely no defense here. So Peter Doocy had asked him, classified materials next to your Corvette, what were you thinking? And he says, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like they're sitting out in the street. It's like, that's not really the problem here. Okay. It gets deeper. Merrick Garland, which if you know anything about the Attorney General right now, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, is a corrupt SOB. He has taken judicial activism to the extreme. By the way, this is my co-host. He's a Zoomer. That's why he's vaping. He has taken judicial activism to the reason I point that out is that it creates an interesting perspective here because we have a pretty big generational gap. Okay, so
he's old and decrepit, so
I'm mental boomer. Okay. So Attorney General Garland has been known for going after gun owners and just all of these corrupt things and making political moves throughout his entire tenure. So him turning on Biden, I feel like this is them trying to oust him from power.
Yeah, again, I mean, the DNC is known for these type of shenanigans. You know, they screwed Bernie Sanders pretty openly 2 election cycles in a row. Like, they're pretty well known for these types of shenanigans. It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
I mean, they basically select their candidates anyway. They're not really elected. They're just chosen for their party. I don't know why anyone's a Democrat. You don't have any freedom of choice there. It's always, here's what you get. Whereas, the Republicans is like, here's 16 candidates. 15 of them are good. Here's the last one that sucks. Enjoy. All right. Again, this gets so much worse, though. I want to dig into this a bit more. Biden may soon have an answer to the special counsel appointed Thursday by Attorney General Merrick Garland. So he appointed a special counsel against him. Garland has tasked former Department of Justice official Robert Hur with investigating Biden for potential impropriety over his admitted transport and possession of classified documents. One batch of classified documents, this is very important, that Biden reportedly retained from his tenure as vice president was discovered at the president's private office in a China-linked think tank in Washington, D.C. So the document that he had in his office, there was a copy of it at a China-linked think tank in D.C. Leaking government documents to China has literally led people to life in prison. What is going on here?
Certainly not what we want to hear about the president.
I mean,
documents that he had that ended up in potentially Chinese or Chinese associated hands. That's certainly not what we want to hear. I would like to see more responsibility, but of course it's the federal government and they're never going to take responsibility.
I don't even think it's a responsibility issue. I think he is allied with China. China has bought and paid for him, and I think he, unfortunately, is the enemy of the United States right now. He is supporting China. To be giving private documents to Chinese organizations is working against America. And there has been several FBI operations and cases where they go after people in the military who are giving stuff to China, and they just find it at this think tank, and nothing's going to be done about it.
I don't get swept under the rug. 100%.
Yeah, they're going to 100% ignore that part. What they might do if they want him out of power, they'll impeach him over the classified documents, and then they'll play it under the rug like, oh well, it wasn't as bad as Trump, but we still don't want him running for office, so I guess you're out. That's where I see this going.
Yeah, it's things are really heating up in politics. We've seen a lot of I things you wouldn't even really expect to see in a generation. Very recently, the Speaker of the House vote, that was the first time since the Civil War that it's not been a unanimous vote first try.
Yep, 1920. We had a whole special on it. It was, I mean,
impeachment trials, both previous administration, and we might see one in the current administration. Things are definitely heating up. It's definitely going to get really interesting.
History is doomed to repeat itself for those who do not learn from history. It is coming again. It is rhyming. Okay, we are in the new turn of the century, 1942, 1939. World War II is coming. Sorry, World War III is coming, as it did previously. We have the country at ends with each other. At the very least, we may very well have a civil war, which brings us into another story here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. So, Katie Hobbs in Arizona, who arguably illegitimate governor, she certified her own election while litigation is still going on in Arizona, potentially to overturn that election. While that's still going on, she has taken to the office, and instead of respecting the people, allowing this litigation to finish, allowing them the opportunity to have their voices and votes counted, she has immediately started going deep into the left-wing agenda. She has required legally that people enforce pronouns. She has opened up the border, and it is, like you said, it is getting dangerous right now. GOP legislators in Arizona have turned their backs, literally stopped and turned their backs to Katie Hobbs. The division is that severe. So this article here, if Katie Hobbs remains governor of Arizona, she's going to have to get used to this, says the writer, because the Republicans are not going to work with her. The Democrat responsible for the Grand Canyon State's chaotic election in November went before Arizona lawmakers to deliver her State of the Union address and got a reception that did not bode well for the future. Conservative lawmakers walked out, stood with their backs turned, and otherwise made their displeasure publicly known as Hobbs outlined her leftist plans to the Republican-controlled legislature at the Arizona capital of Phoenix. Those protests were a visual manifestation of the tough road ahead for Hobbs, who must work with the Republican-controlled chambers to achieve her policy goals. So, thankfully, they are putting up a little bit of a fight against the left-wing agenda here, but ultimately, she's probably going to get it. Members of the Arizona Freedom Caucus, a state-level version of the conservative House Freedom Caucus in the nation's capital, are adamant that Hobbs' progressive agenda will not be successful. And Representative Rachel Jones stated that it took 5 seconds for Katie Hobbs to begin legislating from the 9th floor, so I will not listen to her rhetoric for even 5 seconds. There are too many questions left unanswered, litigation still moving through the courts, and many concerns about the border, not pronouns. Okay, so I want to bring that up and frame it as, again, like you said, it is looking more and more similar to civil war, because this is what happened in our first initial civil war. Was both parties just stopped talking to each other, and we're seeing this on a state level now. There's no answers coming. Where do you see this coming? Where do you see this going? Do you think we go into a civil divorce? Do you think we're gonna hit a civil war? Do you think it would stop before then and we'll just decide to separate states?
I hope a civil war doesn't start, but at some point enough people are going to realize that there is no political solution, and at some point I'm sure it's probably on the horizon. I don't want to be too super doomer here, but I don't know. Ultimately, a civil war is not good for the country, but yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility right now. I know that there's some things going on in Illinois right now that are getting kind of heated. The lawmakers there just passed a law banning all semi-automatic weapons.
And in violation of the Supreme Court as well.
Yep, so. And then a whole bunch of county sheriffs came out and said that they're not going to enforce it, which good on them, but that doesn't stop federal authorities from stepping in. So that might get a little interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they're in direct violation of the Supreme Court order, so if it gets pushed up there, it should be struck down. But I mean, the way our law system works could be years.
Yeah, and that's time that they don't really have, because if the Fed wants to put boots on the ground and start confiscating these weapons, they can do that far before this ever sees court. You know, it takes days, hours to get boots on the ground. So we'll see how this turns out. I hope that it doesn't end up poorly for everyone, if that makes sense. I don't like...
Innocent lives will be cost on self-defense cases and whatnot if they try to ban these, or if during this bill you unfortunately happen to defend yourself in your home with a semi-auto, are you going to prison? Like, what's going to happen with that? So they're losing their right to self-defense up there. It's very bad. I think the tensions... Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, though, just because I want a peaceful solution doesn't mean don't fight for your rights.
Always fight for your rights.
If it comes down to it, we might end up having to make some hard decisions, but peace would ultimately be the better option. But just that being said, you know, if it comes down to it, give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Like, we need to kind of stick together and make sure that we have a future for this country and for our rights.
I like the old Texas motto, come and take it. Yeah. The only thing to stand up against tyranny is the Second Amendment. Needs to be supported. I agree with you with the tension rising. I mean, when you have the left and the right, rather more so the left, being adamant, violating the law, and just going full steam ahead with their policies despite what the American people want, and trying to navigate into your lives and dictate what you can do with your frickin' stoves. I mean, we're getting to the point, this is tyranny. We have blown full past that. You've got the World Economic Forum looking to enforce all of these ridiculous policies on us. The UN is stepping more into the United States, and we are just going full left and embracing this global leftist agenda. I don't think it ends well for history. We'll see what happens. I hope we can avoid civil war, but I mean, history, like I said, is doomed to repeat itself, and we are heading down that same path, and history does not look well onto tyrants. That's all I'll say on that matter. But there is some more really good news for the Second Amendment in regards, not necessarily to Illinois, but the Federal Appeals Court has struck down an ATF rule banning rapid fire bump stocks. So for the moment, you know, double check with your lawyer, obviously. Bump stocks potentially legal again? Unsure. We'll see what happens if it goes up to the Supreme Court. But I would love for this to go to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has been very Second Amendment friendly lately, and more than likely they would strike it down because it's just an unenforceable law. So the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals at New Orleans has struck down a Trump administration ban on bump stocks. The ban was enacted by the ATF as a reinterpretation of an existing law banning possession of machine guns. So basically what the ATF did here was they modified the law, which they don't have the power to do. That's the power of Congress. It's the power of Senate. They're not allowed to modify laws. So they've been essentially creating these rules and creating their own laws. This is not the first case that they've been struck down by this year. I believe there was a Bruins decision where ATF has been taking L after L after L, reinforcing our rights, which is great. There's a great suppressor case in Texas that's coming through as well. So if you're a gun owner, you should be thrilled about this, because it does look like some of these cases are going to be going up to the Supreme Court. And more than likely, you know, if the ATF doesn't drop their case and it goes to the Supreme Court, it's going to go in our favor and should enforce and empower the Second Amendment. Will civil war hit before then? No idea. But just to clarify what a bump stock is for those of you that don't shoot guns, a bump stock uses a semi-automatic gun's recoil to foster rapid pulling of the trigger. So still one trigger pull, you're just using the kinetic energy. And arguably they're not even that accurate, they're more just fun. In a January 6 opinion, the Fifth Circuit ruled 13-3 that an act of Congress is required to ban bump stocks. Again, the left loves to just push forward with their agenda, make their own laws, and then they see the consequences later. This was banned, 2 years ago now? We're just now getting it back. So
yeah,
it's easier to strip away rights than it is to get them back every time. Among the 13-member majority, 8 judges agree that the language of the federal machine gun law which bans guns that shoot with a single pull of the trigger, does not extend to ban non-mechanical bump stocks. 12 members of the appeals court concluded that the law is ambiguous and criminal liability cannot be imposed under the rule of lenity. Okay, so essentially the law is vague. You didn't have the power to do this. You can't put people in prison for it, and yet they did. There are people in prison today for possession of bump stocks, possession of all of these things that they've created these rules for. They will also be going after braces. That was their plan. But if they go after the regulating authority, that will more than likely fail. And I do pray that fails, because there are millions of Americans who have that. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is how we win. This is, if there is to be a peaceful solution, the courts are how we win. They're pushing the envelope. They're trying to see what they can get away with, how far they can take it before there's a pushback. This is how we win. Like, level heads will prevail. Let's keep good people in the courts. Be very friendly. Be very well-versed isn't the word I'm looking for. Contact your politicians, your representatives. Keep in touch with them. This is how we win. Good communication, good policy, good people in office. There is a peaceful solution here. It's just going to be, sifting through all the other options first.
I think there are other things we need to do as well. One of which is ballot harvesting. Don't talk. Look in your community. See what you can do with ballot harvesting. We need to do that next election, because the problem is even if let's say the next president gets in and he replaces these people in the court, once the left gets back in, they just do the same thing. They just replace these judges with the judges that they want for the judicial activism. We tend to put in judges that look impartially and fair, not with activism. So it's a losing battle there until we start replacing some of these politicians. We need to get out there and start ballot harvesting. We need to make our voices heard. We are fighting up against the Democratic machine. You know what that means. This next election is, I hate that people say, oh, this is the most important election ever, but I honestly think this one is possibly the last one we'll have before potentially civil war. I think if we see another Democrat blowout randomly, I think we're in for some trouble. But yeah, on that note, anything to add?
I mean, that's an awful large black pill to swallow. I hope
I'm sorry. It's Friday. We're going into the weekend with a black pill.
That's an awful large black pill to swallow. I hope it doesn't come to that. My message would just be prepared if it does. And we'll just kind of have to ride it out.
100%, unfortunately. But like I said, I believe 2023 is the year of the conservative. I think we will spread our message. People will start coming onto our side, because the more the left pushes to the left and the extreme, the more the people in the middle shift to the right and join our side. So talk to your friends, be bold, be nice, but convince them. What you don't want to happen is you don't want them to go into cognitive dissonance where they bury themselves into their shell and they get adamant against you. So come as a friend, try to convince them, show them the ridiculousness that's happening, the double standard, censorship of conservatives on the right, them going after our rights, and hopefully you can turn some people for the next election. Ballot harvesting, look into it. If you're motivated and you actually truly want to save this country for your children and your children's children, please get out there and ballot harvest. And I'm going to end this with a Thomas Jefferson quote. I believe there are more abridgments of the freedoms of the people by those in power than violent and sudden usurpations. Pay attention to politics. Get your friends into it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please go ahead and follow us on Twitter at America Wake Up. As I said, I am the conservative aspect of this podcast. My name is Alexander Graves, and this is my co-host, the half-ass libertarian, Devin Adler. Again, if you guys want to support us financially, go ahead and follow us. Go ahead and head over to buymeacoffee.com/wakeup. We greatly appreciate you guys. And be sure to tell your friends to watch and subscribe for the podcast so we can continue to grow and continue spreading our message. Thank you guys so much. We are signing off.
Say no to drugs unless they're free.
Damn Zoomers.